meeting to order at 3:34 in the interest of time. We do have a lot on the agenda, not too much, but we're going to start, roll call. So I start to my right. Our president will be here, vice chair will be here shortly, so I'm just covering for the first half as we do committee reports, but roll call will start to my right. State your name into the mic.
Hi, Cece Grant.
Everybody, Colin Beamer.
Mark Teague.
Leo Suarez.
Latanya Williams.
Nardra Johnson.
Christian Daniels.
All right, so we are going to fast forward to, approval of the March minutes.
I make a motion to approve the March minutes.
I
Thank
second.
you.
Okay, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No. All right, so we are going to fast forward to, any additions or revisions to the agenda?
So staff has provided some hard copies at each chair of the annual work plan and annual report that the chair has put together using the information from the retreat. So we did want to give her an opportunity to talk about that if we want to do the committee reports. And then as soon as she gets here, we can circle back to those maybe at the end. And then I have also provided a printout with some information on safety and security. And we can add that to the agenda, or you guys can just take a look at it and review it, and maybe we talk about it in committee. But I'll let you, decide what you want to do with that, or maybe we can bring that up again after the chair gets here and we go through the annual report and her other item.
Okay. Shapiro will be here in 2 minutes as I'm talking for the route, so that's fine. So we can go down to committee reports, and the route committee chair will speak. Me. So first up, we're going to talk about the Northern Corridor for the BRT, which includes Midtown and the other half of the Northern Corridor going to Triangle Center. So Melanie, come on down.
Good afternoon, everybody. Melanie Rausch, Planning Manager for the BRT program. And we're going to talk today about our Northern Corridor BRT Major Investment Study. Okay, so we're going to just go over our BRT features and program overview just for any members who haven't heard it before. And then we'll talk about project history and study area expansion, because I know this project's kind of been floating around since 2018 or 2017. And want to make sure everybody understands the history and the trajectory and how we got here. And then we'll talk about final recommendations included within this report, and then next steps. Okay, so what is BRT? How is it different than our regular fixed route system? BRT features bus-only lanes. It has enhanced stations. One of those elements is a guaranteed shelter at every stop. We have special buses, those articulated buses that we should all be seeing on Capitol Boulevard these days. We'll use those. Rebranded, of course. It has its unique branding. That is a requirement by the FTA. It also has signal priority, that's referred to as TSP. I'll often say TSP, so if you hear me say that and you're wondering what that means, that is transit signal priority, and sometimes we kind of just use that term to also lump in queue jumps, which is an opportunity for the bus to sneak over into its own lane at kind of high volume intersections and get the jump on everybody else with its own special signal. It's really cool to see that in action. It also has longer service span. So it's 4 a.m. to 12 a.m. It's probably technically 12:30. And then that's on weekdays. Weekends start at 5:30. So it's about an hour to 2 hours longer in either both the morning and the evening than a lot of our service today. And it is also guaranteed more frequent, so 10 minutes most of the day, and then transitioning to 15-minute for those off hours, early morning and late night. And lastly, it has off-board fare collection options. Ticket vending machines are proposed at every station. We're still working out if ticket validation would occur on board or off board, but definitely a solution there to speed up specifically that cash payment delay that often we hear complaints about. Okay. And so if anybody sat there and listened to me and was like, oh my gosh, I'd love a picture, here you go. These are, I know I see a description and I'm just like, I would just like to see a photo. So here you go. This is one of our renderings for New Bern. This is the Raleigh Boulevard stop on New Bern Avenue, and this shows a split median style station with our median transit running way, which is also an exciting feature. Okay, so the BRT program, it originally included 4 corridors: New Bern, Southern, Western, and Northern. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that Northern split later. And then there's also an extensions proposed, and that's really living in the Campo arena right now, and that is Garner to Clayton and Cary to RTP. Okay, so this was explicitly requested in Route Committee, so I added this slide in here to talk a little bit about the history of this project within the Wake Transit Plan realm. So you have in 2018, there was a BRT major investment study for the entire BRT program within Raleigh. And that identified those 3 initial corridors of New Bern Avenue, Southern, and Western, but it only identified for Northern up to Crabtree Boulevard. So that's where the Greyhound station is on Capitol Boulevard. I've actually included a link to that study in here. So it just said Northern, it was kind of like, will be studied more further in the future and kind of perfected later within another study. So then in the Wake Transit Plan 2021, we do a Wake Transit Plan update. And that is when we get language included into the plan itself that identified expanding the Northern scope to include looking into connecting downtown Raleigh to Triangle Town Center, and also separately looking into connecting downtown Raleigh to North Hills. And that's referenced on page 28 in the linked document here. So then we get to 2025, and we had a Wake Transit Plan update in 2025, and that expanded on our core corridors by including funding for 2 Northern BRT branches. So that's an important item there. That's when funding gets proposed that funding should be identified as we move forward. It doesn't mean funding is identified now, but it just says we should. I hope that's clear. And I'll defer to Head. Does that sound right to you? Okay. All right. And then that's called the 2035 Wake Transit Plan. That link is here. And I also have the page number where that's written, if that's helpful. Okay. So on to the study we're talking about today. This is the Northern Corridor MIS study. We are finalizing the planning study, putting the last tiny little edits on the document, making sure it looks pretty and perfect. But the point of this document is to connect downtown Raleigh to Midtown Raleigh and downtown Raleigh to Triangle Town Center. It is not in the federal process, and I put ... yet, because we are not at that stage in the project. The timeline that we've had on this MIS study, it began in 2022. We had kickoff in 2022. Fall of 2022, we completed our fatal flaw analysis. That's the analysis that is a pretty quick, we can't do this for space constraints. We don't have desired speed on this road. These roads are never going to be widened. Stuff like that that's really non-starters for a project that eliminated various route paths and alignments. And then in summer 2024, we had the refinement and screening of alternatives. In 2025, between this step in 2024 and 2025, we knock off a couple of those routes after some initial screening, and then we completed detail screening of alternatives. That's where we really dove into which one looks like the strongest competitor, which one's rising to the top. And then in spring of 2026 is when our final report, including our locally preferred alternative recommendations, is coming out. That's what we're talking about today. Okay, so I talked about initial evaluation. So this is a little bit of a condensed version of our PowerPoint that we gave at Route Committee. So if you're thinking I'm skipping ahead, I am a little bit. And if you have questions, please stop me. Okay, so when we were in initial evaluation, we looked into all 5 of these routes. And you see the ones that are not in gray. And we're looking at just Midtown right now. That is route identified number 1. That's in orange on this map, Capitol, Atlantic to Six Forks. And then we have the route identified as number 5. That is Capital Wake Forest St. Albans. And you have reasons listed here as to why these other ones maybe didn't make the cut, right? What was it about them that made them fall to the bottom? And also what about these 2 that were selected to continue forward towards detailed screening, what made them race to the top? Okay, so for Triangle Town Center, same analysis process performed on those alignment proposals, and numbers 2 and 3 were the ones that were selected to continue moving forward with more evaluation. And 1, 4, and 5 were all weeded out due to the reasons listed here underneath each option. Okay, so for Triangle Town Center, we moved forward with number 2. That's Capitol Boulevard to Atlantic to New Hope Church to Capitol again. If that sounds really complicated and you're familiar with the Route 14, it's pretty similar to our Route 14 that we just launched. And number 3, that's just the Capitol Boulevard corridor. And if you're familiar with our Route 1, that is essentially just mirroring exactly what Route 1 does today. Okay, so then we moved on to our detailed screening. And for Midtown, we have, and I see there is a typo in this presentation. We have 3 alternatives move for, oh no, I'm sorry. Okay. So Midtown Raleigh, we had 2 of the alternatives move into detailed screening, but then we introduce an additional alignment option, which is the number 6 that you see listed here, the kind of gold looking line. And number 6 was just a hybrid of alignments 1 and 5 that were proposed. We were seeing in a lot of engagement activities, and there's just a shifting in development as well in these areas that alluded to maybe we should look at looking at a hybrid between these 2, and there might actually be potential there. And then Triangle Town Center, we moved forward with those 2 alternatives for detailed screening I listed before that are essentially similar to the Route 1 Capitol Boulevard and the Route 14 Atlantic Avenue that we currently have. Any questions? Yeah, okay. Okay, so then we had our fall engagement. I think we mentioned this in the last time we came forward and talked about RTA or BRT a little bit at an RTA meeting in the fall. We did fall engagement. We had Midtown Raleigh. We had an open house at the 5 Points Center for Active Adults. We wanted to make sure these in-person events were on existing transit accessible areas. So that occurred on October 6th of last year. And then for Triangle Town Center, we held an open house at the Green Road Community Center on October 2nd. We also performed an online survey that was open from October 2nd to the 31st. And we did some really fun origin, destination, where do you go in these corridors activities for those in-person open houses, which were a lot of fun. Okay, so all of these steps have led to the final recommendations and the meat and potatoes of what everybody wants to see today, I think. So for Midtown, we are recommending a locally preferred alternative of alignment 6. And we came to this recommendation due to it having high ridership. It connects designated growth areas. It has significant city right-of-way, especially compared to alignment 5. And it does have the added bonus of potential connection to the S-Line and intercity rail in the future. Okay, for Triangle Town Center, our locally preferred alternative that we are recommending is alignment 3. That is because it currently has outstanding ridership and is proposed to have outstanding ridership in 2045, which was the year we were modeling as our future growth year. It has the fastest travel time, and like we put so eloquent here, lots of people and lots of jobs. And it also did have strong anticipated scores for the FTA funding process, which is also important and great news. Okay, does anybody have any questions about those before we move on to this next slide? I'll go back. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more about downtown routing. Okay, so downtown routing options. Traditionally in this MIS, we have been exploring only utilizing Dawson or McDowell as our downtown routing options. However, we want to maintain the option to also be considering Salisbury and Wilmington in the next phase of preliminary engineering and planning. Oh, okay, why do we want to do this? We notice that there is, Dawson and McDowell is identified as a primary car corridor in our downtown mobility study. It also has it's substantially more vehicles per day. And then Wilmington and Salisbury has significantly less vehicles per day. And it is identified as a more transit-friendly and bike-ped-friendly corridor. So just want to keep those options open. We're not saying we will only look at Salisbury and Wilmington, but we want to keep those options open as we move forward in more of the engineering process and really make sure we're taking a good look at it and really evaluating what's the best option for downtown Raleigh. And one thing we did want to highlight is that this is one of the great things about BRT that is a good item to touch on is rail doesn't have this flexibility, but BRT does. So why we want to keep that option open and make sure we make the best decision and really bring it through engineering before we totally finalize that downtown routing. Okay. So you might be thinking, well, what are our next steps? So we're presenting to council April 14th during the work session. And then this will be just an information item, so I would imagine we'll be going back to council at a later meeting. And then we will also bring these locally preferred alternatives that were what council decided and votes on recommending. We will bring those forward to Campo to be adopted into the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, also known as the MTP. We're hoping to do that, hopefully spring. That might slip a little to summer. And then after that, we get to put out an RFQ advertisement for preliminary engineering and design for those 2 corridors, Midtown and Triangle Town Center, which are separate projects. Not really separate projects, but I just want to make it clear that we're not choosing one over the other. Okay, so for today, what we're requesting of you all is 2 endorsements to endorse Midtown Corridor Alignment 6, which is the identified locally preferred alternative for Midtown, and to endorse Triangle Town Center Corridor Alignment 3, the identified locally preferred alternative for Triangle Town Center. Questions?
Hi. I have one question that just kind of 2 questions.
Yes.
The BRT services that you're saying is every 10 minutes and the expanded hours, is this service designed to be additive or replace the existing service?
So Triangle Town Center would definitely be replacing Route 1 that's running now. Mm-hmm. It's basically just, I like to think of that option as really beefing up the infrastructure that's out there today. We have the service out there today, but really thinking about that pedestrian safety elements on Route 1, getting those shelters. So that would be a replacement. I think for Midtown corridors, that's still a question that hopefully we would look at further in our next stage of design. That is what we've been thinking kind of on a staff level of what kind of network analysis do we need to include into that Midtown study? Because there's a lot of service in Midtown, and this is a new alignment that would just change how things are going up there, and it's definitely a consideration we want to include, at least in that portion and piece.
Second question is, have you guys had any?
Cece, we need you to speak in the mic and speak up a little bit louder. That's okay.
Second, they have to teach me how to talk into the microphone. Second question is related. Have you did any modeling or forecasting in terms of induced demand that may happen through BRT?
Yes. So you're talking about ridership demand? Mm-hmm. Yes. So that was included in the detailed screening analysis. So we did that for those 3 corridors in Midtown and those 2 for Triangle Town Center. And we did present that in the route committee presentation. I did slice it out for this one. But we do have that information available in that presentation, and we have the 2045 forecast for each of those included. So you'll see there is a pretty stark difference between Triangle Town Center's demand and the demand projected for the Midtown routes. So I can do some like quick off the cuff numbers. Okay, are you sure? Okay. Yes, but that is what leads to Triangle Town Center being identified as being federally competitive, whereas Midtown is likely less likely to be federally competitive.
So we did endorse both options. The one for Midtown was definitely a plus because the alternative 6 had, right now there is no transit on St. Albans Drive. So the plus, well, you have that with the new development on St. Albans, you have that connection from Midtown, but also from Midtown to Ironworks. So that gives people to have the opportunity to go there versus going downtown and transfer to the 14. So that's why we liked the alternative for number 6, option 6.
There we go.
Yes, okay, thank you. And then for Triangle Town, we liked I think it was the third?
Yes, the third.
Yes, the third option. But we did say we in the future to have, because in one of the options for Triangle Town Center, there was an option to go down Lewisburg Road. Right there is no transportation on Lewisburg. So we did say, we need to have, there's growth out there. There's opportunity for people to ride. So that's for a separate plan, but not for BRT, but to look at Lewisburg Road to have transportation. So we did recommend the recommendations that they presented to us. So now we're bringing it to you guys to endorse what we endorsed, if you agree.
Bear with me while there we go.
Yes. Melanie, I do agree with route number 6 for Midtown. I'm very, very happy with the option for downtown routing, especially the second option, so that it incorporates Smoky Hollow, the park, it appears, because it looks like it's close to Apex. So I really like that option for the downtown routing. But I like both routes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that feedback. We can keep that in consideration moving forward.
On that topic, the downtown routes, I would love for all those streets to get dedicated lanes and such. Was that a role? Is that planned for those streets? Did that play a role in which ones are easier to put dedicated routes and all the amenities you showed at the beginning? Did that play a role in choosing the downtown portion of these routes?
Yes, that is certainly part of the wanting to keep this option open. Salisbury and Wilmington are, for the most part, city-owned streets. Dawson and McDowell are not city-owned streets for the most part. And to have a frank conversation, we don't have a highway going through downtown Raleigh, so Dawson and McDowell are the highway going through downtown Raleigh. And there aren't long-range plans identifying a shift in that purpose of those streets. So we do think there's going to be substantial challenge to continue forward with the Dawson-McDowell alignment and also safely be able to stop the bus in a lane. And I think it would be a high challenge to get dedicated lanes on Dawson and McDowell.
Or maybe remove parking and create a long bus stop or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll continue to look at both of these. So it's not like a nail in the coffin for Dawson and McDowell. We just want to keep that flexibility there. Yeah. And, NCDOT may be changing their ideas in the future too. Just want to keep it open.
I don't think there's any stops on Capitol, north of Peace all the way to, or might there be? It's a pretty fast-moving.
It is a pretty fast-moving. There's definitely still discussion around if there could be a stop, but that we're still a little early in the process to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of the components about federal funding with the 2 different locations, outbound in Midtown and Triangle Town Center. Triangle Town Center sounded more feasible or attractive from that lens. Does that affect the RFQ quality when it goes out? Could an engineering firm come back and say, hey, we love this plan, but we're only interested in doing it if we can get federal funding secured, so therefore we're only going to do Triangle Town Center. We don't want to do Midtown. Is that possible?
I don't think that's how it would shake out.
Okay.
There's positives and negatives to both avenues, I would say. I'm sure the firms that bid on the project will definitely be prepared to, they will build a team that would be prepared to at least submit it for federal funding, right? And most transit agencies are interested in maybe at least submitting to see if it could potentially get rated and get funding allocated to it. So I don't think that would be a challenge that we should worry too much about.
Cool. Thank you.
One more. The downtown port. Has any of the consideration for the, assuming like, let's say Southern and Western are in play, and any of that routing for quick transfers between the two, was that considered?
Yes, we're definitely thinking about that. And that's still another, thanks to the wonderful flexibility of BRT, we can still kind of play with that downtown routing a little bit, specifically with Western and Northern. So Southern is pretty set on downtown routing. I would say it's firmly set, but and as well as New Bern. However, there's still some flexibility in downtown routing for Western and Northern. Yeah. And that's why you're seeing that connection shown, that kind of strange long box at the south end of these maps. That is showing that connection between Go Raleigh Station and Raleigh Union Station.
My question was in the same vein as what Leo just asked about in terms of downtown routing, and more specifically, when can that be presented to route committee and like at what stages? Because I think we've been asking for several years to like kind of understand how these are going to come together. But it's never quite been presented as how the routes will come into downtown. Is there a time when that can be expected?
Yeah, I think we can get that for you. I think I wouldn't pair it with this study, but we could start looking at it, especially in the planning, the next stage of preliminary engineering.
Yeah, I think if this body could have an understanding of the process of how that will be determined would be great.
Yeah, sure.
You need a motion.
Yeah, I was just saying if there's any other questions. Any other questions on that?
I just have one. It's not related. I mean, when you're talking about the priority at the signals, is that only available for the BRT?
No, there is the potential to also have fire and emergency services utilize those same signal softwares. So I think that's something we've looked into. That's really a question for both fire, emergency services, and our traffic signals group. But I know we definitely talk about it in any sort of TSP-related meetings. And I do believe the town of Cary has implemented a system similar to that, where both their EMT, fire, and transit system are all on the same TSP system.
So that would include other bus routes availability that's...
I don't think that's proposed as a part of this report at this time, but it's certainly, we have something called the Regional Technology Plan that does encourage looking into further increasing our transit signal priority more network-wide and region-wide as well.
Good,
So that's a regional plan, yeah.
Yeah, the capabilities are there.
They're there.
We're still testing it, I believe, on 15
Yes.
and maybe Capital, or just 15.
Just 15, not Capital, yeah.
So it's actually active today on Route 15,
Thank you.
kind of in a test mode.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to endorse the Midtown Corridor Alignment 6, as well as the Triangle Town Center Corridor Alignment 3.
I'll second.
I think we'll take Leo's just officially. You want to call the vote?
Go ahead.
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank
The
you,
motion
Melanie.
passes. Do you have anything else on route committee, LaTanya?
The FY25 plan updates, but I can delay it if you want to do interest of time. It's 4 o'clock.
Go ahead and do this, and then we'll do public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay. I think this one's quicker.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So the next piece is talking about the FY27 plan route changes, and this is also mentioned if anyone completed the study that ended a couple of days ago, or last week or so. work plan that came out for WIC Transit. The comment period is now closed. Comments will be reviewed and changes will come in the recommendation plan that should be released in May. So the changes that we're bringing forth today were in the plan. If you have any changes, feel free to comment again May when that period opens up. The first one I want to talk about, and it'll probably skip, but we'll Route 10, which would be the Longview route. That's going to go to 30 minutes all day bi-directional. There will be a comment period for that area, and that is covering for the Inlow High School. So if you see on the map the area that's dark and black, we did recommend that the team reach out to the PTA to see if there's any concerns if this route moves to the purple area. The spot in kind of red down below Inlow, that route already currently runs every 15 minutes. So there is more connectivity down there that we heard that riders are using that route versus the one in black. There's less ridership in those areas. So, but just to make sure it's covered, there will be a comment period making sure there's not any impact to those riders there. On the 70L, which is the Briar Creek, that will be going to 30 minutes all day. Next up, Yep, that's the one. The 27L, which would be the Durant, will be an alignment change and a span of service. So that will be going from Triangle Town Center to Durant/Falls in the Neuse. So if you're familiar with that area, it's going to North Raleigh. So Durant Falls in the Neuse. But we did mention that there is a gap, how should I say, on Falls in the Neuse between, not sure, is it McDonald's right there? No.
The Lafayette Village. Lafayette Village.
Lafayette Village to Durant. I know people would like to connect right here, so I did bring up concerns with this new route, but we do need to have connection on the rest of all the Falls and News up to Durant, so they're looking to that. But right now, there is going to be connection from Triangle Town Center to Falls in the Neuse, in addition to the 32L, which will be crosstown function, which will be from Town Ridge Shopping Center on Glenwood Avenue. If you're not familiar with that area, that is the Walmart, the Chili's, and Chick-fil-A area. And that will connect from Glenwood Avenue to Triangle Town Center. So you have different access points, connections, and transfer points along that route. So that will be a new route for every 30 minutes. Any questions?
Is there an estimated time of the delivery?
FY27.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. I came in like a few minutes late in that presentation, so thank you, LaTanya, for chairing and doing your committee report first. I heard there were additions that we needed.
Right, I came in after it started as
awesome.
well.
Linda Davis is also here. Mr. Walker, I heard that we had additions to the agenda that we needed to make. Is that correct?
Yes, we don't have any slides, so you can insert that conversation anywhere you would like. But we do have the work plan and annual report that you had emailed out to the board earlier today. We brought paper copies in case everybody hadn't had a chance to review those. Those are in front of everyone. And then also there's a paper document on safety and security update that I can provide, or you can just take that and review it, and we can discuss it in committee. So however you want to have those conversations, and whenever is up to you.
Okay. I think annual report and work plan can be in our authority member section at the end of the agenda, if no one protests to that. And then normally I guess we do the security update during staff information. So we could go to that now and then go to finance and policy. Is that okay?
I think it says market
Public
is
comment.
next, but not on there. I don't know why, but
All right.
I
let's go and let's do the security update, and then we'll finish out committee reports. And we're just going to jiggle the agenda around today. No one's protesting very loudly, so that's what we're going to do.
All right, so what we have done is put together a document with some bullets of items that have been brought to this board. They have been brought to City Council. They have been brought to our ATP Dev management team, over a period of time, and we have provided in red responses to all of those bullets. This may not be a 100% comprehensive list of everything that has been discussed as far as safety and security, but this hits on most of the bigger ones, and it's the ones that we've been able to be reactive to and get some projects underway to make updates. So I'll just start at the top of this list and just kind of go down. One of the things we heard about was lighting at the Pool Road facility in both the employee parking lot and the bus lot. We did install brand new lights around 2017, 2018. Unfortunately, those did not pan out as well as we had hoped, and we actually had several that had burnt out. So we have put in some temporary light posts and approved implementation of some additional or replacing all of the lights on the whole property for both the employee parking lots and the bus parking lot. The parts have been ordered. They are not sitting readily on the shelf to be installed, so that there's a delivery period for that. We are expecting those to come in sometime, hopefully toward the end of this month, and have them all installed by the end of May, hopefully at the very latest, possibly into early June.
Do you install those, or is that
No, the vendor will do that.
Oh, okay.
So our ATP Dev worked with the vendor that has done work there in the past when we've had one or two lights that go out. Actually, we got 2 or 3 quotes, and then we went with the low bid, and it happened to be the vendor that we work with regularly. The second item was there's a gate for the buses to enter and exit. And there have been people that have walked onto the bus lot because it's not very well marked. We have installed additional signage on the gates, on the fence panels on both sides of the gate for both the entry and the exit gate. Just within the last few weeks, we've finally gotten our bus-only marking down, and if you drive by, you're not going to miss it because it's pretty bright red. So there's about how wide is that, Sarah? About 10 feet wide, probably, the red paint? Oh, the thickness? Yeah. It's about like 10. Yeah, it's a pretty wide red marking all the way across, and inside that it says bus only in white. And then in front of that, we actually added a crosswalk markings to show that if you're walking along the sidewalk, you continue on this path to get to the sidewalk on the other side. Don't go that way into the bus lot. So it's pretty bright, it's pretty in your face. And if somebody does walk in, they're now doing it intentionally and not by accident, which is what we had some issues with. I think you've heard us talk about the gate itself and the issues we've had. We've put out a couple of RFPs or RFQs, excuse me, to have the gate redesigned. Unfortunately, we did not receive any bids on either one of those. So what we have done is make some temporary fixes to get the gate at a minimum operational so that it can be closed when it does need to be closed. Even when we get this gate fixed the way it needs to be fixed, it is not going to be open and closed every time a bus pulls up. It'll be opened up in the morning. It'll stay open throughout the day. And then at night, we would close it for the short period of time that the facility is closed. We are looking at, in addition to the repair to the main gate, for the daytime hours, getting some gates kind of like what you go through at the parking deck, where it's just an arm that pops up and down. It'll still have to be badge access for the drivers, or there'll be a trigger in the bus that sends a signal to it to open. So there'll be additional items installed there in order to provide at least another level of security. I believe we're even looking at some lighting that goes on the corner post on each side, so it'll be lit up red if you've not actively engaged to open it, and then as it opens, it'll turn green. So that's just another signal to the general public that don't go there. Let's see, employee parking lot security. We are looking into funding for that one. We've secured funding for the first two items. We're working with our finance team to try to find funding for some additional work in the parking lot. That could entail additional parking garage type gate arms that would be badge access controlled for employees to come in and exit. The only concern we have with putting something like that up on the employee lot is that is also our visitor lot for people that are visiting the building. So there does have to be some form of access, some way for those folks to be able to enter. And if you have a call box, then that means somebody on the inside has to be actively monitoring that. So we're talking through what that might look like. So we don't have a solution on that yet, but we are working towards that, and just wanted to add that because it will be a little bit of a longer term resolution on that one. Go Raleigh Station, so moving away from the Pool Road facility, talking about Go Raleigh Station now. We have installed, well, not installed, but implemented some signage on our real-time passenger information displays throughout the station. We have we have a lot of folks that like to spend the night inside the station after it closes when the last buses depart. We do have no trespassing signs up throughout the facility, and we've recently, at the request of our Raleigh Police Department, implemented some similar language that we have on our hard signs on the display, so it's bigger, it's brighter, it's more in your face. And as soon as the last bus is out of the facility, I think it's about 12:30 at night, those real-time passenger information signs put up a no trespassing and the general statute that says you're not supposed to be here. So we've implemented a lot of new signage throughout the station. We have worked with our security firm that provides 2 officers for 20 hours a day. They are one of the concerns that you've all heard. I think some operators came is that first or 2 or 3 drivers that report to Go Raleigh Station, and there's still a lot of those folks that have been spending the night hanging out, sleeping in the seats and whatnot. So our Capitol Special Police officers are going in there at 4 a.m. First thing they do is they check in with dispatch via their radios that they have. So they have radios where they're able to listen to and communicate with our operators and our dispatch. So they check in every morning at 4 to make it known that they're there on site, and then they start immediately going through the station to each platform. If there are people still there, they politely talk to them and ask them that it's time for them to move along, or make sure they're getting on the first bus that comes through there. They have also implemented a deeper version of what they were doing initially. They would walk part of their patrol on an hourly basis is to walk through each platform, and they would get on 1 or 2 buses as they did that going through the platform. They would get in the front door, just kind of walk through and come out the back door. So they're being visible, they're being seen, they're communicating with the folks that are on the bus, communicating with the drivers. They're doing that at an even higher level now. So they may do, on one patrol through the station, they may get on up to 10 or 12 buses. So that is an active, every day, every hour change that they have put into place at our request. There's been concerns about the radios on the buses and how drivers can communicate with dispatch, and we are here to restate what we have stated in the past, that it is our statement that there are no problems with our radio system. There are basically two ways that the radios can operate, and one is what's considered an open system. So if Colin has an issue and he keys his mic and he's talking to dispatch and saying, I just had a bad accident, I've got some injured people on the bus, and Miss Truman pulls in and she's got somebody that needs to transfer to another bus, so she's wanting to call that other bus. All she has to do is pick up her mic, key it, and we can no longer hear Colin. We only hear Miss Truman. So the guy with the emergency gets cut off by the driver that's trying to help somebody make a connection. That's not a good way to operate. We had that for a long time when our system was much smaller, but we've almost doubled in size in the last 10 years. When I left in 2014, we had about 130 drivers. Today, we've got about 260, and we need about 275. So just imagine 2 or 3 drivers needing to talk at the same time and just constantly walking over the top of each other. So the way the system works now is if you need to communicate with dispatch, you hit a button that sends an immediate signal to dispatch, and dispatch responds as soon as they have a chance to respond. And that keeps people from walking on top of each other. You can have multiple conversations at the same time with 2 different dispatchers and 2 different buses using that system versus it's only one person talking at a time on the old system. So we stand by our statement that the system that we have today, it works. It's the way it needs to work, and just about every major transit system across the country uses that same methodology. Let's see. There are, in case of an emergency where an operator does not feel comfortable even making a radio call, there's an emergency alert button discreetly placed on the left-hand side of the driver's seat. He can hit that button, and there's an emergency alert that starts going off on all the dispatch and all the executive managers' computers saying, you've got an emergency going on. So they have a process to respond to that discreetly to that driver and start responding appropriately. All of our buses have cameras with up to 8 to 12 cameras throughout. A good number of those buses have the capability for our team to dial in and look at what's going on inside that bus live. Every bus doesn't have that. So there's a little bit of older technology out there, but all new buses are coming in with that capability that if we need to see what's going on inside a bus, we can do that immediately. So we've got capability to have eyes on a bus and see what's happening if there is an emergency. Let's see. The last thing I'll add on this one is that our local team, in acknowledging that sometimes during the really peak and busy periods, if a couple of drivers make a call to dispatch, there may be a little bit of a delay in responding. So they have requested from their corporate office to add 2 dispatchers to the current team that they have. That request was approved, and I can't remember what she told me this morning, but I believe, their candidates for those positions have been selected, and they're currently going through the background check process. So those 2 additional staff weeks, I would say. So they've recognized some potential short staff and addressed that at no additional cost to the city of Raleigh and on the contract. They're absorbing that cost. The next bullet is to provide additional supervisors down at Go Raleigh Station. Again, the local team made a request for 2 additional supervisors. That request was approved, and I don't think they're quite as far along on those 2 positions, but it has been approved, and they're currently in they're interviewing candidates today. So they're just probably a few weeks behind on that. So hopefully within a month to 6 weeks, they'll have 2 additional supervisors available to provide that additional presence at Go Raleigh Station. And the target for those 2 additional positions was to make sure there's a good number of supervisors, at least 1, if not 2, down at the station for the majority of the day, especially during the peak periods. So I think the local team has done a good job of recognizing some areas where additional staff are needed. They've made those requests and received approval to make those additions to the local team at no additional cost to the city. We have also requested that RATP Dev, somebody from their executive management team, make at least a daily visit at different times throughout the day to Go Raleigh Station, just to provide that additional command presence. So in addition to the supervisory staff, we'll have some executive team members down there. We're not asking them to go down there and stay all day, but we are asking that they go down there, walk through the station, be seen, talk to folks if, conversations need to be had, communicate with the security team, and just be seen so that there is an additional presence at Go Raleigh Station. The last thing is on-street issues, and quite honestly, this is probably the biggest challenge to solve, because we are an open-door public transportation system. If there's a bus stop and there's somebody standing there, we pull up, we open the doors, and they're allowed to get on the bus. And sometimes you get folks that may not have real good intentions. So that is one that we continue to work on. Our hopes are that the changes and the additional staff and presence that we're implementing at Go Raleigh Station will help with that, because we're trying to make sure that we have the people that are there to ride the bus in the station, and the folks that aren't there to ride the bus are not there. And therefore, we're providing an overall better environment for everyone. We continue to work with our Raleigh Police Department to engage with them and make sure that we have a good team of officers in and around the station. I think you all know we've provided them with a little mini substation office upstairs above what we call the breezeway from Wilmington Street down into the station. And we are continuing, and when I say we, I'm talking about our internal transit team. We're continuing to review funding opportunities, both internally and through our Wake Transit Plan projects, to see where we can find additional funding to support additional security and safety needs. So that is the report that you have in front of you, and if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Yeah, just for context for all the board members, I've requested that we get some extra reporting on the security issues, given the recent attention that the news and all the various news outlets in Raleigh have decided to take on our bus station. There's obviously a lot of conversation in the community due to the media coverage about the bus station, about the bus system, and about security on the bus and at the station. And so I wanted to have a chance at this meeting to get an understanding of what staff and RITP Dev are doing currently, what they need more funding to do, and what they think are solutions to both the real and perceived security issues that we may have at the bus Raleigh station. So at the Go Raleigh station. So I just wanted to give that context. Certainly welcome anyone to have more questions for staff. And this is not going to be the only time that we discuss this topic, as it's an ongoing and important one. So does anyone have questions for Mr. Walker?
I will add real quick before the
Sure.
first question. If you did not see City Council on Tuesday, we have been requested, we being transit staff, have been requested to provide an update to City Council during the 11:30 work session on April 21. We've got less than 2 weeks to prepare something, so we're not exactly sure what or how much we'll be able to provide, but our team will be going to that work session on the 21st at 11:30 in this room, if anybody wants to listen in or show up.
I guess I have a question and a comment. In regards to a recent event, my concern is the passengers on the bus, and especially if there were toddlers or preteens, and the experience. Is there any mental support that reaches out or meets with the passengers when they have incidents that are occurring?
Not that I'm aware of. I know our employees obviously have access to employee assistance program. So the bus operators, by all means, do have access to that type of service. It's not necessarily something that we provide to the general public.
could it be an opportunity for training to the operators in certain situations to how to calm the customers?
So RATPDEV does provide their de-escalation training. I've got some additional notes here from my meeting with the general manager this morning, and I do believe they provide some mental health type training that is provided during their onboarding, and then it is part of their annual refresher training. So they do get that. It's not something that they hear every month in a safety meeting, but they do provide a level of training on how to handle de-escalating issues, and that would include a passenger that may be freaking out, to use a word, after an incident had happened, so they can help de-escalate that customer with that training that they have received.
Thank you.
Other questions on the security report that we just received?
Yes. Going back to the employee parking, where it talks about potentially putting a gate, are there a lot of visitors per day?
So our ADA eligibility testing does occur at this facility, and they currently do about 4 to 5 reviews daily. So there's at a minimum a trip in, a trip out, a trip in to pick them up and leave. So, one of those is for entrances or, entry or exit. We do have folks that come down there to buy bulk passes. I don't know that I've got a number in my head, of how many times a day that might happen. Okay. They have people come by to fill out applications. That does still happen occasionally. People ask about filling something out on paper.
Okay. No worries. I was just curious because would it be of value to have a gate since the parking lot is in the front and you have the sidewalk along, and you're talking about the front area right off Pool Road, you have the sidewalk, people can just walk over off the sidewalk into the grass into the lot. So I guess what would be the value to add a gate? Just thinking, just not really an answer, a question, but just something to think about. Like what would the value to have a gate for incoming? What are we securing? Not really a question, just something to think about, because if I'm, not to be criminal mind, but if I'm walking on the sidewalk, I can walk into the parking lot and walk back out. The gate serves no purpose.
Deterrence. Serves deterrence. It's a physical boundary that they have to cross so then you can show intent if you charge them.
There has been at least one, maybe a couple of instances where somebody drove onto the parking lot, into the upper lot, which is a little bit more discreet and hidden, and
Right.
there were some break-ins of employee vehicles. So in that case, it would prevent somebody from
Okay,
breaking, being able to enter the parking lot.
I don't know if we could potentially move the employee parking lot. Maybe they can park it back. I don't know if enough space, but something to think about. But I digress. As for the supervisors, where we talked about using CSP to do the walkthroughs during check-ins, can the supervisors do that as well?
Yeah, I mean, they're in the station to serve the operators as they come and go, so that's generally what they're doing. Buses are coming in, they've called a supervisor, my fare box is on the fritz, so the supervisor goes in and fixes whatever needs to be fixed. If they're in a downtime and, that's absolutely something that the supervisors could do.
Okay. Reason I say that, because that can create more visibility on staff, so that will deter people to, not have any issues. The other question is, we talked about road supervisors. How many do we have currently today? Besides the 2 that's coming in, but how many have today?
I believe the number was 10,
Okay.
so that the 2 additional brings them to 12.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Did other folks have questions?
I had one very specific question about after Go Raleigh Station closes and that digital display is now showing the announcement that it's closed. Is there any auditory system that announces that the station is closed, or is the PA system used for anything like that already?
So there is capability for audio. I do believe there may be actual announcements that say Route 10 has arrived or something like that. So that's actually a good thought. I'm not sure that we added that, but that's something we could certainly look into.
Thank you.
Did anyone else have a question?
We can play some bluegrass music.
It's working at the bus stops.
Did you say all buses have cameras, or because this says most?
All buses have a camera system.
Okay.
With, I'm going to say a minimum of 8. I think our newer buses are getting more than 8 cameras. Some have the capability to dial into them and kind of see what's going on live today.
Okay.
That's I don't think we have 50% of our buses that have that capability. It may be close to that, but that is something that we have been purchasing for a while now, and all new equipment is coming in with that capability.
Okay. If we present this to council, let's say all, not most, because that would be a question.
Well, I can't say all because they're not all having that capability. All buses have cameras. I see what you're saying.
All the buses have cameras. Some have live
Yeah.
visibility. Understood. Important distinction. If there are no other questions, I just wanted to say as a comment that I think safety and security is something that we often talk about at this board. It's something that staff and RTP Dev obviously take very seriously. And the purpose of spending a bit more time on it at this meeting, the request of City Council to get more briefing on it than usual, I think is an opportunity for us to be very clear about what the system needs to the people who have the decision-making power about it. So at our retreat, we talked a lot about speaking up and advocating on behalf of our riders and our operators. So this request to better understand not only what is being done with security, but what might be able to be done is really critical in this moment. Particularly, it's always important, but everyone else seems to think it's important right now and not just us. And so taking advantage of a moment when everyone else is asking what can be done to help security on the buses and in the bus station, I think is the moment that we're here for. And this is not about some of the outrageous requests to close the station or any of those things. This is about taking advantage of people paying attention to something that we often speak about in order to be louder advocates and be better supporters of our system. Does that make sense to folks?
Yes.
Do you guys have any questions on that?
Just one comment. Is it possible to have a report quarterly? I don't know if monthly would be necessary, but at least a safety report quarterly to say, so we can continue to keep eyes on this, because we talk about it, but we don't want to let this conversation die after today.
For sure. I think one of the things that we had talked about in our retreat was getting better metric reportings, like in collaboration beyond just the bus ones, but with Raleigh Police Department and other things related to security. So I think quarterly makes a lot of sense. We might take that to finance and policy for conversation, just to make sure that we know, staff knows what to bring us each quarter. Does that work? Okay. I think then we will move on and back to committee reports, knowing that we'll take security issues back up probably again next month, because I'm sure there will be something to talk about after City Council talks about it, and then at least quarterly after that. So Finance and Policy Committee report. Am I looking at Ms. Davis? Are you still giving this report?
Okay, the Finance and Policy Committee met last week, and the bulk of our work was about the FY27 budget. So Siobhan Tucker is here to make a presentation. The budget has been available on board docs. You've probably all studied it. But Ms. Tucker can speak to us specifically because our goal is to vote on passing it or approving it to go to City Council.
Good afternoon, everyone. Siobhan Tucker, Transit Finance. We were requested to walk through the presentation slides again today. These are the same slides that you saw last month, so they will be familiar. And as a reminder, the more detailed budget is attached in board docs for your review. So a few key items to note. We are talking about the FY27 fiscal year that runs July 1st of 26 through June 30th of 27. A balanced budget is required, meaning that revenues do have to equal expenditures. And Transit does develop proposed budgets for both the City of Raleigh and the Wake Transit Plan work plan processes. We do have several program budgets that we develop as part of the annual budget process. There's Transit. This is our day-to-day management of the bus system. Expenses include personnel and admin expenses, bus operations, and preventive maintenance. Also, paratransit, similar expenses, including personnel, general admin, and contracted services for the paratransit services. We have our planning program for short-range and project planning functions on TDM under our marketing group. They plan and promote alternative transportation options. And then the Wake County Transit Plan, which you hear a lot about throughout the year, the regional initiative to expand the public transit network throughout Wake County. Moving into the city's budget timeline, we are in the budget process. So some of these milestones have already been met. So upcoming May 19th is the city manager's proposed budget presentation to council, followed by the budget public hearing on June 2nd. And then during June, on those Monday evenings, is a series of council budget work sessions until the budget is adopted in June, for the budget to be adopted by June 30th to be effective July 1st. Also, the Wake Transit timeline, again, we are in the middle of this process as well. So April 30th, the TPAC will consider recommending the work plan for adoption. May 6th, there is another 14-day public comment period, with the expectation that the work plan will be adopted by Go Triangle and Campo Executive Boards by June 30th. So a few things we talked about last month, or I pointed out, we did have some service cost increases that we needed to build into the 27 budget. We talked about the preventive maintenance costs for the CNG buses. So there was an additional $3.6 million built into the budget, and that amount will need to carry forward throughout the future years. Also, an increase for potential operating cost increases. And I did note that these increases are allocated between the city and the Wake Transit Plan, based on the revenue hours dedicated to the various routes. Also, the fare assistance programs, we talked about the impact of those programs on the budget. They are funded through a variety of sources, primarily Wake Transit. We do receive also some FTA grant funding for those senior paratransit riders that don't meet Wake Transit's income requirement. But we have seen some significant impacts on the revenue side for based on those fare assistance programs. So this is a chart that we put together showing farebox collections. As you'll see, FY19 actuals pre-COVID, farebox for fixed route and access combined was close to $4 million. And then for 27, as I mentioned, we're seeing significant changes. The total between both programs, we are expecting fare box collections to be around $500,000. But I will note that the gap is made up of reimbursable expenses, or the lost revenue is reimbursable. So through the TAP program, we are able to request reimbursement through the Wake Transit Plan. And like I mentioned, for those paratransit riders that do not qualify for TAP, we are able to request reimbursement through the FTA. So for FY25 actuals for farebox assistance, we're looking at about $2 million. That was FY25 actuals. And for FY27, that number is going to jump up to about $3.5 million. So requested action today is to endorse the FY27 proposed budget for City Council approval. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for going through the presentation. Since we met for our retreat, this was not recorded for the general public and the many questions they often have for the budget. So appreciate you going back through it today while it will be recorded. It's always much more useful to hear your voice explain the spreadsheet than to just look at the spreadsheet. Does anyone have any questions about the budget? Okay, then we would entertain a motion to endorse the budget for City Council approval.
I make a motion to approve the FY27 proposed budget.
And I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay. I would like to just note for the record that fare box recovery is less than 1% of the budget, because it's a longstanding item that is of interest to me. So this is my comment for the record for my vote. Other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thanks, it passes, and City Council can consider.
Thank you.
I just want to make a follow-up to that. To your point, the fare box, cash in the fare box is that percentage. But those supplementals that we are receiving through the Wake Transit Plan to pay for the fares through the Transit Assistance Program equal $3.5 million. So we have a fare system. We do offer free fare programs that get reimbursed by the half-cent sales tax that was passed through the tax district. So our overall fares are about $4 million between what comes in through the fare box and reimbursements through those programs.
Thank you, which I will add as 5% of the overall budget.
The only other issue that we need to report to you about from Finance and Policy is that we have been hammering through our bylaws and putting them into the shape of the template provided by the city council, the clerk's office, the lawyers, and we are sending that back to make sure it's fitting, and we hope to bring that to you for your approval next month.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for Linda on the bylaws? Is there a draft available for review, or you anticipate that after the attorney's office reviews?
Well, we don't have a final draft, but we could have it.
So there were some edits requested at the committee meeting last week that is on my desk. I have not gotten to that yet, but I hope to have that draft soon.
Okay. So, no.
Gotcha. Well, when it's drafted, can we distribute to the full board just so that we have more time to read the detailed document?
I guess we could promise to get it to the full board when we have
Yeah, I
it-
don't think this is
and-
to rush. It was just to like see the draft ahead of, in case folks have comments for you for your committee meeting.
Yeah. So, yes, if we have it, we can send it to everyone for comments. But at this point, basically, what we've done is just put everything that this body approved way back when into the format that the lawyers wanted. So, in essence, we've already approved it.
Sure.
But you're right, when we have it.
Mostly because we have new board members, was why I was.
Ah, good point. Okay, so when we have it, and when we'll try to get it to you prior to the next committee meeting, and it may or may not be unleashed back from the lawyer, but
For
we'll
sure.
we'll send you a copy of our draft that we are sending to the lawyers. Okay?
Thank you. for
Thank
Your
you.
continued hard work on the bylaws.
So fun.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
In addition, in the discussion of the bylaws, we did have a conversation because in there, City Council does want all boards to be in uniform. And there was an issue with elections. And we had a discussion with that. And we discussed a proposed date so that we will be uniform and consistent, just like the City Council's wishes are. So we had discussed and talked about other options, and we kind of discussed May as a time for elections. I know in the past it was done at the retreat, but, you know, we haven't had one in 2.5 years. So I know most boards have them annually. So that was one of our discussions. So I wanted to bring that up as conversation.
Appreciate that. Is that recommendation for timing incorporated in the new bylaws? Yes. Okay. I think that it makes sense to get the bylaws approved and then act on them and have them be active from thereafter. I'm happy to take comment on that. But I want to make sure that we, like if the attorney hasn't approved them yet and then they want to change them and then we've done something, and I'm just trying to avoid any further duplication of efforts. Certainly, we want to fall in line with all the expectations. And I know most of them happen in June or July as the fiscal year turns over. So I think that makes sense, unless folks want us to do something more specifically next month prior to approving the bylaws.
I just more or less wanted to bring it up as a conversation with the other board members and their thoughts.
I think one thing is true that we do have some board members that are new since we even started working on bylaws at all. And the bylaws have said that the chair of the Raleigh Transit Authority has to be approved by the city council. Members, of course, have to be approved by the city council when they're nominated to come on board. But once the chair is approved, the chair actually appoints committee chairs and assigns committees. And so rather than having that be kind of floating out there, well, are we going to do it at our retreat? When is the retreat? Are we going to do it this time or that time? We just said, well, since what we're asked to do and what our practice has been is sending the work plan and the annual report in May, that would be the time that we could present everything and say to the city council, here's our report and here's our chair, if there's a new one coming over. It's just a way of sort of formalizing everything that we do to the city council at once. So that's kind of the thinking. I don't know if anybody has comments about that, but I know we're about to get some new members and have some shuffling of committee chairs and stuff like that. So the committee felt pretty comfortable with saying May before, our presentations to the council. But if there are any questions, I think it is a good time for us to discuss it.
Chair Davis was kind enough to let me sit in on the conversations about the elections, and we did go back and forth between May and then kind of like the fiscal year, which would be in July, along with the other committees, even though we're authority, not a committee. I still felt like July, where we are in lockstep with other committees, to me seemed like the better idea, but we just had a robust discussion about the dates.
The only thing, guys, I want you to think about, we all come in at different times. Our appointment times are different times. So to be stuck on a calendar date of May or June or July may not always be feasible, because some people drop off, some people time expire, or they no longer be a part of the board, or may come aboard at like mid-year. So, yeah.
And to that point, the chair still appoints the committee members. The election is for the chair. Our recommendation to the council for who the chair is. So we're not requesting that any of that change. Well, the discussion wasn't about any of that changing, not a request. Apologies.
In response
Repeat that again.
to that also
Wait,
is,
hold on.
Okay.
Say that again, CC. You said to appoint the chair?
According to the
or-
bylaws, the chair appoints everyone else, all of us, to our committees.
Right.
So the election would not be for the committees. It would just be for the chair, unless I'm mistaking.
I mean, the chairs for the committee.
No,
No, they're
the
talking
chair
about
of
me and
the
you.
authority. Because the
The
city
chair and the vice chair
council,
for the whole authority.
yeah, the
Well, I
chair
know the
of
city
the
council
overall
votes for
authority.
you.
And see, the bylaws say that the city council has to approve that
Right.
annually. And see, we're not changing annually, so it's almost pro forma
Right.
to say, well, every May, we're just going to say, as an authority, we request that you continue, or you approve that we continue with Jen Truman as our chair for the next year. Or, see what I'm saying? Like, it's sort of a formality, because usually, at least our history has been that when we have a chair, they serve out their term.
Yeah, I think that's the only, I don't think, at least for me, I don't have any objection to doing it annually. I think that makes sense going forward. I think it's just right now we're operating under the old rules and we haven't approved the new rules yet. So it's just it's just a matter of very formality wise, we should probably approve the new rules before we start acting on them. And I don't know when that will be, because I don't know when the city attorney's office will return them to us. So anyways, for me, that was the only thing, was timing wise. Certainly, I think LaTanya and I are both in our third terms. So thinking about succession of chairs and annual elections and stuff is an important topic.
Well, as far as,
Go ahead.
It was in the old bylaws, the same way that it was supposed to be annually. So we're not proposing anything new except for the date. And in conversations with the exact date, I use the planning committee as kind of one of my guidelines to watch. And Ms. Bennett rolled off in February. They elected a new chair, and they will have an election again in June. So I think for consistency, that we're all the boards and commissions are on board, because conversations with council, that is the wish. The Raleigh Mayor's Committee is still not able to onboard new members because they have so many things that they've got to adjust. We already have that in place. We are, at the retreat, we found out we are a very important board, and you fought for us for the last year, and I appreciate that immensely. but I think we need structure. And for new members to come in, I mean, the very first meeting I came to was in the election, and that was 2.5 years ago. So I think as being, transparent to the public and everybody, all the other boards, BPAC is doing, the Mayor's Committee is doing, has had an annual election. I think it's important that we follow what we're expected to do.
Definitely appreciate that. Any other comments? So is the request from committee to schedule election for next month's agenda items? Because next month is May.
That is not, we did not discuss that in committee, and, well, we didn't discuss bringing it forward as a formal action item.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we had a discussion of May to bring
We did.
forward.
I just didn't know we had to vote on it today.
Oh. Well, May is our next meeting.
We need a vote. I was just looking for some consensus from the board because only a few folks have been speaking as to whether we feel like it's appropriate to go ahead and put the election on the agenda for next month for the chair and vice chair positions. Because then we would need to take nominations now, today.
That's what I was going to say is, it may be a moot point. Is there anybody that may be interested?
I think it is a moot point because I don't think anybody has said that.
And then it has to be approved, so then it's like then you'll be stuck in limbo as well.
The conversation was mainly held so we can, as Mark said, formalize the procedure. It's nothing to do with taking a vote today. It's about us progress and make the motion to approve putting it into our bylaws, or basically enforcing the bylaws that are already there. And rather than doing just annual, we specified May. That way it's not open to interpretation of what annual is, because then a year will pass, 2 years will pass, or 3 years will pass.
Okay. Then I think that means we will have election on our agenda for next month, which means we would take nominations today for the chair and vice chair position. And you can self-nominate yourself if you would like.
I would like Jennifer Truman to continue as chair for the remainder of her term. And I would recommend, or I make a motion that LaTanya Williams serve as vice chair, to put it on the books.
Thanks for keeping us straight, Mark. Does anyone second those two nominations? We'll do them
I'll
combined.
second that.
Thank you, guys.
Those.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. Then we'll put,
Officially, the chair, once appointed, would appoint the vice chair.
oh, I thought we did it as elections before. I'm sorry. I haven't read the bylaws. I was prepared for next month.
That's because we don't have it.
I didn't read them last night to be prepared for today. That too. All right. We'll officially do everything next month then, if there's no other comments now.
Last comment, as an alternate, I can't vote, but just let the record state that I support that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Beamer.
Well, we have to make sure we have a quorum in May.
Yeah, everybody come to the meeting in May so that. Yeah, right. Okay. Is there anything else in finance and policy?
That concludes.
Any other questions for Linda? Linda, can you remind me when your term is up?
My term ends April 17th.
Okay. Well, then I want to take this moment at the end of our Finance and Policy Committee to say thank you very much for your service and your diligence with all of the bylaws and the policies and the keeping us on the straight and narrow all the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to serve on the authority, and I will, as our proposed bylaws state, I will stay on until my replacement has been chosen and passed by the city council, whenever that is.
I'm going to ask for photos from all of your travels that you have planned. So, at least once a quarter, I'm going to expect some pictures from some new place that you've been to.
Okay, I can do that. Sign up for public comments.
And then in light of Ms. Davis's term being up and that she is the chair for the Finance and Policy Committee, I would like to appoint Mr. Daniels to be the new chair for the Finance and Policy Committee as the longest standing person who's been in that committee. I would like for you to accept it.
I accept it.
He whispered into the mic. Thank you, guys. Okay. That's all the finance and policies business. And we're ready for marketing.
All right, here we go. Next.
All right, so we met last week and went over some of the latest marketing, content that's out there. WRAL commercials are rolling. If you've been watching, you might have caught them. They're just like traditional commercials and other videos that staff can run on social media. Excuse me. We're highlighting or at least last month, we were highlighting Route 2 and Route 14. We're mentioning 15-minute frequencies. That is a core message that's included. And it seems to be going well. The metrics show steady. We had good numbers before. They're still good now since the pivot from the influencer campaign. So we went over that, and we'll see more of that in the next couple months. We had a nice discussion about the Transit app. For those who don't know, the app Transit is available for everyone to use and get route planning and real-time data for Go Raleigh routes. And what we dove into was we got some snippet of information from a lot of information that you can get directly from readers. There's a survey feature in the app, and some of our riders are giving us feedback. So, for example, to the question on Route 1, how was your trip? 83% gave it 5 out of 5. And some of the other questions were, generally very favorable. So we talked about that. Could that be used to inform us of any, things we should change in marketing? We talked through that. And there could be other things to do with the Transit app, to get more, feedback. We then went into a conversation about the R line. We've seen a bit of this before, where we reviewed the R line's history. That was in some former committee meetings, I think last year. And we included stats of its history, its rise, and its fall in ridership. And really, we just want to highlight 2015 was really the first year that the R line's ridership started to decline. We also went over some of the previous studies that have been attempted to look at the R line, including the one that led to its current iteration. If anyone doesn't know, the current route is not the original route. So we talked about that, its role in micromobility around downtown, how it kind of competes with the newly rolled out scooters and bike share. Our increase in frequency on other routes are creating a bit of duplication in trips. So we have, and then we rolled into an open discussion about, what are we going to do with the R line? What kind of recommendation should we make? A lot of this was talked about at the retreat. So that is an ongoing item that we'll probably touch on next month's marketing meeting. We have options to explore just micromobility in general. What we would like to do is get a survey out and do some public engagement and just talk about downtown mobility in general. Like, think beyond a fixed route bus. It could be something else. You know, we just want to get, like, we just want to see if I identify if there's a gap in what's currently available, either through the city or private, and see what the next steps are from there. We could, there is an option to, while we're studying this, we could discuss suspending the art line, you know, in response to this ongoing study, survey activity, as we, you know, look into other alternatives and work on our recommendation. So we will look at that. And so I hope in the next meeting we can come up with like a little bit of a feedback effort, you know, reach out to some stakeholders to get some feedback about what their people think about getting around downtown is like. Does the R line play a role in that or not? And, you know, is there something missing? And then we'll come out with something, next steps, and bring it to this board. So I would encourage anyone very interested in that to consider perhaps coming to our marketing committee meeting in May. And then last, just to wrap up, or maybe I should stop for questions on that topic.
I have a hunch that people will have questions about that.
So,
Well, the conversation about suspension of service of art line, I think that should be held in the route committee. I guess the networking of or with the stakeholders for the art line, I guess we'll see, like, is that going to be done in May, or are you going to do that in?
I think we'll come up with a plan to do that. Who to talk to, you know, when. If I had to anticipate, it would be like a spring summer thing, and it would be a combination of like an online survey, meeting with stakeholders, and I would like to go to some of the existing engagement events that staff's already doing, and do some kind of downtown mobility thing as a board member, and see if we can just get anecdotes and thoughts about it that could, you know, help kind of make sure that we went through all the possibilities of that.
Yeah.
And then if we want to go through like just temporarily suspending it, then I think it would be as simple as deciding, yes, we want to do it. And then it could be.
Or potentially have the conversation of reduction of service. Maybe you just do it on the weekends, maybe like Friday through Sunday, where the biggest events are happening. Yeah. But I guess probably too, definitely have the conversation. Are you aware of the R line? Do you know what the R line is?
Right. So in those questions, it would, because some of my off the cuff conversations with people, yeah, even that question, do you know what it is? And it's like, no.
Right.
Like, that's a possible.
If I can suggest, and Mark might be able to pull the numbers out, but I don't remember off the top of my head, but as I understand, the R line has very, very low ridership and it costs quite a bit to run.
Yes.
So it probably does behoove this body to consider pausing it, not canceling it forever, but pausing it while we do the study, which does sound like something Route should talk about. So if it would make sense to just take that one piece of the question of, do we temporarily pause it while we study to Route for next month for discussion? And then marketing can continue the work and the larger plan about the revisioning. And then I want to take other questions or comments, but that's just my suggestion to try to help us move forward swiftly.
I personally like that idea.
I thought you were going to lay down the number.
So would we get a route committee would come up with a recommendation officially to say, yeah, let's pause it to come back before the board to decide officially, or would we need to do that many steps?
I think we have to do a Title I before we do.
And pause it for a year without doing the reduction in service study.
Could we pause it as the full authority? Do we have to send it?
That's a good question.
I mean,
Council did ask us to think about the R line specifically. So I would look to staff to know, can we just pause the route we did it before.
Yeah, I don't
That was because of COVID.
Yeah.
believe that city council would need to have a say in pausing it temporarily. If we did decide to just stop it altogether and sunset it, then, they may want to have some input on that, or, but, we make route changes all the time that don't go to city council for approval. We
Right.
send them an update in the manager's report a few weeks ahead of those changes, but the board is the authority that makes those service decisions.
Okay.
Do you have an idea of how many drivers that would free up?
Good question.
4?
It's been a while since I looked at it, but probably 6 or 7, because you're running it 7 days a week.
Yeah.
It's, at least 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, then meal breaks and all that, so.
And 100,000 a month.
Ha, I knew he had the number. Thank you,
Not
Mr.
quite
Teague.
that much, but yeah, close.
Okay, so Route will consider the question of pausing it in next month's committee meeting and bring it back to the board for further discussion and a vote about the pause.
How long, I guess with communicating to the community, not that a lot of people is writing it. I'm thinking since this is part of FY, what year was it, 25, when 25, 26?
27.
20, no, right now.
26.
Oh, right now it's
26.
26.
If we have to suspend it to give people notice, not that it's a lot, to be June 30th, so that way, because we're not losing anything in this fiscal year anyway. It's a loss, we know. But I'm just saying, if we have to give you time in May, have the conversations, but that would be the ultimate deadline.
Yeah, we'll have staff make a look at the planning that will be needed to pause it and bring a suggested date for if that is the ultimate decision, when that should be.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be good to have the date for our ability to
Or-
make the decision.
No, because that's going to Dick's. Okay. Or I'm going to say maybe
Did it-
July 5th, because I know they're doing something with Dick's with 4th of July, so I don't know.
So pausing a service has huge impacts on the operators' schedules.
Okay.
So we have to do a lot of planning with our operations team to make a change in service, whether it's adding service or stopping service. So let staff come to the committee next month
Okay.
with a date. If a decision were to be made to pause service, we would say this would be the recommended date to do that. We'll need to work with the team to make sure that if we make a decision to do something, we know how we're going to do that.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
sounds good.
Were there other questions? Ms. Davis and then Ms. Johnson.
I guess I was just going to confirm what I think was said. Marketing is still actively going to put together the survey, do some ad hoc things, and good, because there's no reason why that should be paused.
No.
It'll take
So-
a while to collect all that information and come up with alternatives.
Right, so if it's a temporary suspension at most, right?
Right.
So something else has to come to put in what we think is the right long-term fix. And a reminder, we're working towards a recommendation to council of what to do. So there are strong arguments, which I feel like everyone knows, for the suspension, I feel. And speaking just for me, I'm good with full suspension, not partial or reducing. But my goal is to get this committee to come up with a solid recommendation, and then to present it to this board, and then that can go to council. So that stream has to keep going. So I want to address that it's been publicly, there's a good public engagement, and that it really targets downtown mobility or downtown and adjacent locations mobility, whether that exists or not, right? Like, maybe everyone's fine without it. But we'll go through that vetting process and come back to this board, and from there, make that long-term recommendation of what to do with the art line.
Okay, I want to go to Ms. Johnson's question.
Well, my question is that if it's going to be discussed in route committee, can it also be a bullet in there in regards to parking downtown? Because public parking is very expensive. I went downtown Tuesday and paid $23 for 2 hours. And that's because I'm not familiar with all the free parking areas, but I wanted to get to my appointment and not be late. So I went to a parking place not knowing where to go. I'm sorry, went to a parking lot not knowing where the free parking was. If that's also available in the discussion on route committee, and adjacent to the R line, maybe that can be added to your survey, because I know there's been a discussion in council about parking fees going up downtown and free parking going away altogether. So people are going to look at other alternatives like the R line or using Go Raleigh to get to downtown to different events. I know July 25th, I know it's the end of July, GalaxyCon is coming, and a lot of people go. And they're going to be looking at how to move around downtown, where the places to go eat, where to shop, so forth and so on. So that's...
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I feel like talking about parking falls in line with your goals, Leo, of like looking at this a little bit holistically about what the options downtown are in general. So does that make sense to fit in? And it sounds like because they recently presented to City Council, someone in the other transportation departments probably has some info that they could send our way.
Please.
So that'll be the staff request part of that, is to just get the info into our little box of agendas. Other questions? Mr. Chief?
Question maybe and a comment. When I was reviewing the bylaws, I saw that ad hoc committees could be added. And, you know, every time I turn on the TV anymore, they're talking about autonomous vehicles. There's a lot of things that are happening with transportation. So I think that, you know, my suggestion was to form ad hoc committees to talk about specific things, because the time that we're limited to for the route committee, for the finance committee, are dedicated. But there are other things like the R line and the introduction of autonomous car that we as a board should be able to look at, to be stakeholders in the conversations. And with ad hoc committees, you know, and I would recommend virtual instead of attending in person, but I just wanted to throw out that idea.
I appreciate that. Every time that I've asked for an ad hoc committee, everyone on the board has said, no, we don't want to go to any more meetings. So I appreciate the request. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Suarez, but the reason we put the R line kind of in the marketing committee first is that so much of the early work will be community engagement. And so y'all are the committee that most directly interacts with that staff. It was not to like live in marketing forever, but rather to like have this discussion like we're having today at the full board.
No, and I like the idea of like you pulled out the piece about suspension of the route, and you know, it's going to take a village to make this happen. You know, like all three committees probably could play a role in some way. I like the idea of like this. I mean, I'm intrigued by an idea of an ad hoc for a specific topic like that. But you know, I haven't even finished, and you know, like we probably had an hour and 15 minutes. We well covered everything there. So, plus I've tried virtual meetings before. I'm told we can't do that. So there's also logistics there, but that's another.
We have virtual meetings with paratransit once a month.
I'm going to put virtual meetings on next month's agenda in the interest of time because I agree. And and a decision on that has not been made since 2022. So next month we will talk about virtual meetings. Virtual committee meetings, to be specific. Thank you, Ms. Williams. You had one more item in committee report.
Yeah, so we went through the FY27 marketing campaign. We're going to have a bus wrap campaign next fiscal year. Every 2 months, there's going to be a new bus wrap out there. That was a cool, since they were very popular. I like the gold one. Yeah. You can wrap the R line. Just wait. Just wait for the new ones that are coming. Let's see. So yeah, we talked about what was ongoing. More. You'll see same stuff from like WRAL, some of the radio, social media will be ongoing. There's going to be some BRT specific marketing being done, which sounds cool, and giving them a lot of content to promote and get the word out about what BRT progress is going on New Bern. And we're dropping the hurricanes this year. Of course, we pivoted away from the influencers, and so yeah, we just went over the proposed campaign. It seemed fine.
Has your budget changed with using WRL commercials?
Has it changed?
Like increase, or are you using the same?
It all fits. It all fits. For next year?
Yes.
Has it changed?
I mean, is it subject to increase? Because I think your budget for this past year was 50,000.
250,000. Yeah, it all fits.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know commercials are more than influencer campaigns, so I just want to see.
Like that? Yeah, I think you'd be surprised.
Okay. Well, these new influencers, yes.
These influencers, I mean, come on.
I've seen the commercials; they're great. So good job, and Mark Roberts, good job. So, yeah. But I would definitely say some of those can be recycled. So definitely do engagement online. I know we're posting, but we gotta engage with those people who are interacting or commenting on the post. So that keeps the engagement flowing and outward, not just to those particular writers. Because as we know, the algorithms change. So some people that may not live in the state may see them. So yeah. Engagement matters. So that's it. But good job.
Yeah. That's it.
For marketing. Okay, we're gonna keep moving along. Yes, sir.
Just a quick note and reminder that there is another meeting that's scheduled in this room at 6 p.m. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
We might go a little past 5:30, but we'll be out before 6. We're going to move to the next item, which is the general manager's report with the KPIs. Thank you guys for waiting patiently for our discussions. Appreciate you being here today.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to introduce Byron Robinson. He is our new AGM for the Access Paratransit side of the house. He started on Monday. He was already a member of the RATP Dev family. He comes from Kentucky. He was the general manager there, operating and managing their access and on-demand system. So, you want to say anything?
Happy to be here. I'm looking forward to supporting the service, and nice to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You're off the hook for the presentation this month, but not next month.
It won't be very long. The operator count at the end of February was 251 active operators. We currently, this week and over the next week, we'll have 10 operators that will be joining the revenue service. That will bring us up to 261. We need 275 for the new run cut that started on March 22nd. We have 22 employees that are in some phase of training, and we do offer a training class weekly. It starts every Monday. We had 25 missed trips in February. All right. On-time performance has stayed pretty much the same. In February, it was 77.3%. We continue to monitor that. We even have an RATP Dev meeting with others in the company at other properties to see how we compare. And it's pretty much the same. We've talked to some of our partners here in Durham. So we've just been looking at various ways that we can continue to make improvement, but it seems to be a struggle for many of the transit systems post-COVID. Okay, I think I went really far. For paratransit. PM completion, we are fully staffed in terms of mechanics, so we're at 100% in terms of our PMs, and we've exceeded the goal of miles between failures for road calls. Paratransit expenses, taxi expenditures for the month was $651K. The vans were $207K. Taxi cost per trip, $26.20. Cancellations for the taxis, $59.57. Cancellations by the client, and $656 for the vans. No shows, $913, and $146 for the vans. And some of this was related to inclement weather that we had at the beginning of February. Taxi missed trips, 119. Van missed trips, 1. On-time performance for the taxis, 90.1% and 88.5% for the vans. Questions for me?
Yes, thank you. And I look forward to working with Byron in the future. I do have a question. In the past, you've always shown the amount of trips. And if I'm analyzing this, it would appear the taxi vendors, it doesn't reflect because it's not showing the amount of trips that are provided. Where 10% of the trips are being provided by the vans and 90% are being provided by the taxis. So by not reporting the amount of trips, you changed it recently. Could you help me understand why?
No, I just abbreviated the slides that I present here, but they still should be in a total packet. But if you want me to add that back.
Yes, I do want to add it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions for Mr. Pree? I don't know if you guys talked about this before I got here. I know there was a bus accident earlier today, according to the news reports. So I don't like to be up here and not mention such things. So we're hoping that everyone involved is as well as they can be. But wondering if there's anything that you wanted to say about that while you're up here.
The driver did not seek medical attention. He is out on leave now. There were 5 passengers on board the vehicle at the time, and 2 were transported to the hospital. And I don't have an update on any of their injuries.
Okay, gotcha. Well, thank you, and we'll look out. And like I said, I hope that everyone is as well as they can be after something like that.
Yeah. That's pretty bad.
That is all for you. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
It comes in and out.
We did save talking about our annual report and our work plan for the concluding remarks section. We are at 5:33, so I want to be respectful of time to get out of the room before the 6 o'clock people need it, and of your time. I sent this earlier today. I was sick last week after getting things from committee members after the committee meetings, so that's why you got it just today. So understand that folks may want some time to look through these and see if they accurately reflect what we discussed at the retreat. I've done my best to summarize and condense the information as much as possible, but I also decided that we should brag about what staff and the board and RTP Dev have been doing for the expansion of the transit system in the annual report for last year. Given that it was the 50-year, it felt wrong to make it too short. So anyways, if there's questions that folks have now, we could take them. But it seems like probably we will need to actually vote on this next month unless everyone's prepared to vote today. Next month. Cool. Any comments? Questions? All right, I'm going to do any last concluding remarks for everyone. Okay. All right. Then the meeting is adjourned at 5:35.